and welcome back. I'm Jennifer at HopefulHomemaker.com. This is week 4 of the Lone Star Tree Skirt Sew Along, and we should have our quilt tops ready to go. So today we're going to talk about quilting. In order to finish your quilt top, you are going to need to baste it with a backing, batting, and your quilt top. And I prefer to do that with pin basting on mine. I'm not going to demonstrate how to do that, but if you need help learning how to baste your Lone Star Tree Skirt, you can Google that and find tutorials for that online. Mine is already quilted, but before I show you what I did, I want to remind you about this great page. It's page 9, or the last page in your pattern, and again, this can be very useful to doodle or kind of draw what you might want to use as quilting ideas, or experiment with different things that you can do. All I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about what I've done on my Lone Star Tree Skirts and just give you those ideas as a jumping off point. I would encourage you also to Google and go to Pinterest and to YouTube and look for quilting designs that interest you if you don't already know what you're going to do on yours. So here's mine, and the first word that I would just like to say, and I did this for a reason, just so that I could show it, is this looks pretty ugly in the center. The reason I did it this way is I want to remind you that what you do in the very center of your star doesn't matter, because this is going to be cut out and become the part that goes around the trunk of your tree. So whatever you do here, don't stress about it or don't put too much effort into it, because you're going to lose it. So most of the real quilting that you see is going to come outside of this line if you go from edge to edge across your middle star. So just so you know, from there, all the quilting out is what will remain, but this very center will go. On this tree skirt, I wanted to do something different that I haven't done before, and so I tried quilting feathers. I hope you can see it. What I did to prepare for that was I doodled, I practiced doing it on my sheet, I looked at Pinterest and some other tutorials on YouTube, and I practiced sketching it. I got a scrap of fabric batting and I practiced it on my machine, and then I went for it. The thing that I learned about this is that because my patterns of fabric that I used are busy enough, you really can't see it that well. So it's been very forgiving of my many mistakes. You can see it a little bit better maybe on the back, but I also, without intending to, chose a pretty busy backing, and so you can't see my quilting as well as you would on something that was more solid. So that's what I did inside my star. I just did one big feather in each one, and then on my edges, my background edges, I just love this mistletoe print so much that I decided to just kind of echo around it, and so I changed thread colors. This is white in here. I changed to a red thread, and I just kind of went around and doodled around the mistletoe pattern. I wanted the pattern of the fabric to really be the only thing that you saw. I didn't want my quilting to stand out or be more noticeable than that. So it's something I did. I've never quilted this way before, really, and so this was a good learning experience for me. The back of it looks a little bit funny. It looks kind of different. I pieced my backing when I realized I didn't have enough. So you can see it looks kind of ridiculous, but it's the back and it's going to be on the floor. So I'm not going to worry about it, and it's kind of like, reminds me of the blind contour drawings that I did in art classes years ago. So anyway, that's how I quilted my tree skirt. I do want to also show you really quickly what I did with the original one, in case that provides another idea for you. On this, I used an orange peel design where I started in the center and worked up, over, down and up, over, down and up, over, until I got here, and then I came back the other way. So anyway, if you want to try an orange peel, the thing that is great about it is that it's easy to do in all the diamonds because everything's so easily marked already. It's very forgiving. I used a green thread on this, but you can see that it stands out a lot because my fabrics are less busy than in the other one I just showed you. And so it's a really nice, pretty way to do it. It's a very traditional way of quilting a Lone Star, but it's pretty and it's not hard to learn. So you might want to consider that. And the other thing I did in this one is I did straight line quilting in my edge. And so what I did for that is I used my ruler, and I used, this is called a Hira marker. It's made by Clover. You can find them on Amazon or online. I believe I bought mine at Joann's. But what you do is you decide where you want it to be. I chose 1-inch lines, and then I marked it. And what this does is it just creases the fabric really well, and so that you have a faint quilting line to follow later when you did it. On this, I used a walking foot, which is just a straight stitch foot on my machine, and when I did all of the designs on the other one as well as the designs here, I switched. I put my feed dogs down on my machine and switched to a darning foot and just did free motion quilting on this. If you're unfamiliar with any of those terms, please feel free to do a little bit more research. I'm not an expert on quilting, so I'm not going to give you a big tutorial on how to quilt your Lone Star. There's no perfect way to do it. Another thing you could do if you're nervous about doing anything free motion would be to just echo. You could go around here or just next to it, and you could just go all the way around around your star with a zigzag to do that. You could also, and this would probably be the easiest if you're intimidated, when it's still a quilt top, you could just draw a straight line all the way across it, meaning you could mark it if you wanted to with something like chalk, or again, just use your hero marker, and with a ruler you could just mark straight lines going all the way across it. So you could have a straight line going all the way across the star, and it would be beautiful. You could also do it without marking any lines and do it more organic, where you just line up and choose your spacing and go for it. So there are some simple ways to do this, and there are more complex ways. We're all at different skill levels with this project. I would encourage you to do this yourself, just because I think it gives experience and it's part of the creative experience, also because it's going to be on the floor under a tree. But if you have access to professional quilting, if you're a professional quilter yourself and you want to pause and do it that way, by all means, your quilt will be far more beautiful than mine. But if you want to keep up with the sew-along schedule and have a finished project in another week or two, then you'll probably want to quilt it yourself. So there are 4 ideas. There's echo what's going on in the fabric, do something like a big design, a feather all over. Remember not to worry about your center. You can do something traditional like an orange peel design, or you can do straight lines. You could do straight lines all the way across. The sky is the limit. There are so many different ways you could do it. You could do it with all kinds of crazy patterns on it. You could find a Christmas pattern. You could draw your own holly and leaves, berries, or whatever you would like to do. So I'm excited to see what you come up with and encourage you to have a lot of fun with this process. That wraps up week 4. We're just talking about quilting, and it's time to go and decide what you're going to do. Again, feel free to do all kinds of research and learn more about quilting on your own, or send your quilt to somebody else to quilt it. Either way, it's going to be gorgeous. We'll meet back here in 1 week, and we will be finishing the project at that point in time. We'll be turning it into a tree skirt, and we'll be talking about bias binding. Until then, have a wonderful week and happy sewing.